Baruch Hu told Adam, and they also have a Messiah from Adam Arishon. Because the drasha is
Well, it didn't last very long. If it's not written down, if we wouldn't have our Torah written down, it would be this oral Messiah and not based on anything. Most of it was forgotten. That's why we have a Gemara. And that's why there's machlaikas. We don't know almost anything.
We don't know, and we are the nation of the book. How is it that the goyim are expected to know?
Exactly.
Don't we have a chiyuv of teaching them the mitzvahs?
But that's our Messiah. Why should they accept what we have a Messiah about them?
That's our job of convincing.
That's our message.
So what was expected of the goyim until Lubavitch came along? Like just all the years, how are they supposed to know what their responsibilities were? Now in Lubavitch is in a campaign to proliferate and to teach the goyim of their responsibilities of the Zayin Mitzvah Noach. But all of the generations, how are they expected to know? And the Gemara says, "As haras and zun misason." You can kill them. Bezdin can kill any goy for violating any of these Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach.
But Chazal can't even agree on which ones are, the Sris and the, there's a few that are not even clear
this
for us. So how should...
essay from Simply Pshat.
What's that?
This is screaming for an essay from Simply Pshat because it's a positive fundamental question.
Yeah. So I have no reasonable answer for this at this point.
Yet.
Right.
Yes, there's a new president now. There's new ideas that no one thought of until now. Things are happening. Okay, so let's see what the Gemara says. So the last thing we learned was according to Devei Menashe, who doesn't darshan this pasuk of Ayetzav, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu was informing Adam Arishon, how does he know everything? So the Gemara said, it's there's no one pasuk that encompasses all of the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. Rather, each of the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach are taught to us individually. So when it comes to Znus and Avodah Zarah, that we know because by the Mabul, the Torah writes, "Vatishaches haaretz lifnei Elokim," and Talmud Rebbe Shmuel said, "Hashchasa" always refers to Davar Erva, Znus, and Avodas Kechavim, and we know that because it says Kihish Cheskol Basar's Darkoi, which is referring to Znus, and Avodas Kechavim because it says Pentashchisen Vasisa.
And its problem is the definition for znus is not clear, and neither is for avodah zarah.
As a matter of fact, we're going to soon see. There's a whole discussion what type of znus is included in the prohibition of the Zayin Mitzvahs B'nai Noach and what not. Like a Naira Hama Urasa, they have the goyim's concept of znus is once someone was boil somebody v'davak be'ishtoi v'loy be'yacher, right? So Naira Harasa, there was never a Davik Be'ishtoi, because it's Kedushin and not Nesuin, that wouldn't be one of the Zayin Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. So we're going to have a bunch of discussions today and tomorrow, which Nus is prohibited for a Goy and which is not.
It's a machlokas, right?
There's some background.
So it's a machlokas. So it's still not clear.
Right. So Zok Gemara ve'idach. What if you did learn the Zayin Mitzvahs B'nai Noach out of the pasuk where HaKadosh Baruch Hu informs Adam Rishon? Why do we need the Torah once again to inform Klal Yisrael, to inform the Goyim, to inform the world about these mitzvahs, about Tishaches Haaretz? And I forgot to mention what Rashi says. Tishaches Haaretz, Lifnei Elokim, is just relaying a story. What happened by the Mabul? How do you see anything about Isra there? So Rashi says, because if HaKadosh Baruch Hu killed, which reinforces what David is saying. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu killed the world, the B'nai Noach, or the B'nai Adam, because of Znus and Avodah Zarah, it must be that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had once told them they're not allowed to do it. How are you talking that HaKadosh Baruch Hu would just destroy the world and no one even knew what they were doing wrong? So from the fact that it says Vatishaches Haaretz, it must be at some point in time HaKadosh Baruch Hu told them. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu did tell them. He doesn't say in which way they were informed. If you're learning it from the pasuk, so that was the information session right then and there. But if it's from Vatishaches, it means there was an information session. We just don't have it recorded. But if you learn it from the pasuk, why did the Torah have to inform us again? The kamegale shavichas damim. The chsiv shoyfech dama adam. I'm sorry. Ve'idach urchayu urchayu the kamegale. The Torah was just telling us what it was that they did, not necessarily that was the tzivoy, but the Torah is telling us what they were killed for. So there you see that it's referring to. You see that's referring to shvichas damim. The idich. So that's how you know that there was a issue of shvichas damim. The idich katalayu hu de kamagali. That pasuk of shvich dam adam isn't to inform them that shvichas damim is usher, because we know it from the pasuk. It's just to tell us what type of misa they will get if they do shvichas damim. Okay, but the hasar is from the vayitza from that same pasuk. Okay, Gezel. Where were they told about Gezel? The chsiv, after the Mabal HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Noach that you could now eat animals kiyerek esev nosati lachem es koil. V'yomer Rabbi Levi Darshans, what was HaKadosh Baruch Hu telling Noach? Kiyerek esev v'loy kiyerek gina. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said you have it like a yerek esev. Esev is a wild grass that's grown that you're allowed to. But the yerek avagina, which somebody worked hard to cultivate, and it belongs to somebody that you wouldn't be able to take. So that is the indication that Gezel is also. Vedach, what if we already know Gezel from the pasuk of Vayitzav? Hahula Mishri Basar Huda also. That's just to say that Basar will be mutter to you like yerek esev. That was the purpose of the pasuk. Ever minachai, where do you see that goyim are prohibited from eating ever minachai? Dichsiv ach basar benafshay damoy loy soichelu. Ve'idach, this is an interesting one. Ahu lemishri shrotzim huda asa. You're allowed to eat shrotzim ever minachai. Let's have a look at Rashi. I didn't know that you're allowed to eat shrotzim alive. Zokt Rashi lemishri shrotzim huda asa. Mishum shehuzaru be'ever minachai me'ochol toichel. Right, we learned it from that pasuk. Also, Haikra, this pasuk of Ach Boser Benafshay Damei Loy Soichelu is telling us Lemishra Ever Minachai B'Shrotim. You're allowed to eat Ever Minachai B'Shrotim. Just in case grasshoppers aren't appetizing enough for you, you don't even have to eat them live. You can eat them while they're still creepy crawlers. B'Hachi Darshino on the command B'Pirkin Oisei Basar Shakaru Damei. If there's a distinction in an animal between its basar and its dam. For instance, you're allowed to eat its basar, but you're not allowed to eat its dam. Only in such a creature is there a concept of Ever Minachai. Oisei basar shekaru damai benefesh ve'abasar karu basar danu damai chaluk mi besarai. Only such species are sarno lechu be'Ever Minachai. V'loy b'shrotzim. By shrotzim, there is no distinction between its dam and its basar, and therefore it does not have the prohibition of Ever Minachai. She'ein damai karu nefesh. Ella hareyu kibesarai. Dilu b'Yisrael le'michayve like chorus. A yid who eats the dam of a sheretz does not have chorus. So you know when you squash a juk, there's like this gooey blood that comes out. You're allowed to eat that, just in case you were ever interested. Kidu amar b'chrisus the less bay el alav. There is a lav, so you're not allowed to eat it. You just don't get chorus for it. The dam shrotzim kabasar. Dam shrotzim is like the basar. See, it just goes to show that we are very progressive as Jews, because now there's a whole movement to eat bugs instead of eating meat. You see, we're allowed to. We don't even have to engage in pita because we can eat them live. We don't even have to kill them, as I state.
No. This is for goyim. This is the Sheva Mitzvah B'nai.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. This is for goyim. Oops. Oh, thank you for correcting me. I was getting creeped out for a second.
Yeah.
You're right. We're talking about the Sheva Mitzvah B'nai over here.
There are grasshoppers.
Yes, they are. But I guess they have to be live. No, but it says the ilu b'Yisrael loy mechayve loy koresh. Even a yid is not chayiv koresh for eating the dam of a sheretz, but it's still also okay. Because talk to more about it. What about sirus? It's also for them to neuter an animal. The chsiv shirtzu ba'aretz or revuva. So that's telling you not to neuter. Zok to Gemara. What about us who know that from the pasuk? V'idich lebracha ba'oma. Shirtzu ba'aretz was just giving them a bracha. Go and become plentiful. Climb. How do we know they have the Isra Klayim? And if you remember, we said they're allowed to wear a shatnez. The only thing that's prohibited for them is to mate dissimilar animals or to graft dissimilar trees. So you see Dafka Limineu when they were brought into the, I guess that means when they were brought into the Mabel. And it doesn't do with mating. They didn't mate in the table anyway. It's just that Hashem wanted to make sure that all the animals have company. And a snake would rather hang out with a snake, not with a chicken. Or I'm not sure about that. It might be Yosef. Like a horse would rather hang around with a horse, not with a cow. The horse would say, like, the horse will tell him, like, who do you want me to talk to? For all the time I'm in the table. Amr Yosef, Amr Beirav. Al Shalosh mitzvahs ben Noach ner. Even though there are 7 mitzvahs ben Noach, they're only chayiv misa if they violate 3 of them. What are those? Gesher is the siman. What does Gesher stand for? Gimel stands for Gilu Arayis, Al Gilu Arayis. Shin stands for Shvichas Damim, and the Reish is obvious. Val Birchas Hashem. I always wonder how come the Gemara doesn't say a Geshev? Why did they say a siman that doesn't quite line up? Kasha for myself. Maskif law Rab Sheshes. The Shlama Shvichas Damim, I understand why. There's a Chiv Misa for it. The Chsiv Shoifach Dam Adam, but Adam Dama Yishafek. Torah tells us there's a Chiv Misa. Elahanach, but Gilu Arayis and Birchas, I'm sorry? They don't get killed for that. Well, there was a lot of things going on, but Mabel was also Znus as well. The It wasn't sealed only because of Gezel. So it seems like if they wouldn't have done Gezel, they wouldn't have been killed for the other affairs. Somehow they're interdependent.
What really should strike us is that the story right before the decision to make a Mabel is that the Bnei Elohim would take whoever they want, any woman they want, and have their way with her.
Correct.
And there's Gezel and Gil Arayis at the same time.
That's Gezel as well. It's funny, Rashi quotes the pasuk you're referring to. It's the top Rashi. Gil Arayis t'chsiv, derech gerva b'alma, v'dar mabel al Arayis nenshu t'chsiv, v'yiru b'nei Elohim es b'noi
Oh, there we go. Okay.
That's what you're referring to. Okay, Zok to Gemara. Ella hanach minalahu. So how did we know we have Shvichas Damim? How do you know Gilu Arayis and Birchas Hashem? If you're just going to learn that out of Shvichas Damim, because like I have a binyan I have just like one mitzvah ben Noach nets misa, so to the rest. Well, then afilu kulunami. Then all 7 mitzvahs ben Noach should be chayiv misa. And imishum dis raboy may ish. Where does it say ish? We have 2 sets of psukim that say ish. One in regards to Gilu Arayis, and one in reference to Birchas Hashem. Right? It says ish el kol she'er b'sarai. So that's ish is to be marba goyim. I don't know where the pasuk is over here. And then there's the other ish referring to Birchas Hashem. Let's see if ish el kol she'er b'sarai like sikravu. So there you see the ish lagabe this nos. Bnei Yisrael to daber lemer ish ki yikalel. So maybe that's the mechor. Well, then you should include Avodah Zarah as well. Avodah Chavim Nami is Rabbi May Ishish. Elo Amar Rab Sheshes, Zok Rab Sheshes, Ami Beirav. You're right, it's not 3 out of the 7 mitzvahs ben Noach that going to get killed for. It's al Arba mitzvahs ben Noach Nerak, because in fact, Avodah Zarah as well, it says Ishish. Practical Gemara, V'yala Avodah Chavim. Ben Noach Nerak, are you telling me that a guy will get killed for doing Avodah Zarah? But Tanya b'Avodah Kachavim, in the halacha of Avodah Zarah, Devarim shebesin shal Yisrael mabisin alayin ben Noach muzar alayin. We had this brayso before. If it's a type of avodah that if a yid did it, he'd be chayiv misa. A guy is prohibited from doing it. Ashara in misaloi. So it just says muzar alayin, not they're killed. So doesn't that indicate that a guy will not get killed for Avodah Zarah? Anytime a goy has a lab, that automatically nets in their misa of herod. So by Klal Yisrael, the Torah had to specifically tell us that there's a misa. But the goyim were not afforded that courtesy. The moment they're told that this is usher, should they violate it, it automatically comes with a chiv misa. Rav Huna v'Rav Yehuda, the Chulu Talmidi the Rav, Omri, they said, Al Sheva mitzvahs ben Noach nerhag. They're all killed. They're killed for all of them. Goli Rachmana Bechada. The Torah taught us by one of the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Noach that there's Misa. And that equally gets applied to all of them, and we know it from Shvichas Dam. Okay, Gavaltik. The Alagezel Frektimor. So now that you're telling me that the Benoach gets killed for all of the violations of the Sheva Mitzvah Benoach, like Dovi says, the Alagezel Benoach Nerek is a Benoach going to be killed for doing Zela. But Tani we learned, very interesting brisa. Al Hagezel, what are those? That includes Ganev, the Gezel, the Chen Yefas Toyar, which is referencing what David said earlier. Taking a Yefas Toyar is a form of Gezel. You're stealing somebody else's wife. Right? David said that in reference to before the Mabul, they were stealing other people's wife. And the Chen Kayotzeben, and those items that are similar to our list, Ganev, Gezel, and Yefas Toyar. The Gemara is going to probe soon what is similar. We'll put that aside for now. This is a really part of the censor because it's goy begoy, not kusi bekusi. A goy in a goy, and a goy in a Yisrael also. So a goy may not steal from a goy, and a goy may not steal from a yid. It will be also. But the Yisrael begoy mutter. You can understand why this was censored. But a Yisrael is allowed to steal from a goy, which is in and of itself a massive, massive, massive sugi. And we'll get back to that in a second when we peek in Rashi. The Im Isa, if it's true that a goy gets killed for Gneva, why does it say that goy begoy is osir and goy be Yisrael is osir? Nisli chayiv. It should say a goy who steals from a yid is chayiv, not just osir. If in fact it's chayiv misa. Dr. Gemara, you know why? Mishum de kaboy lemisli seifa Yisrael b'kusi muter. If it would just say chayiv and potter, then we wouldn't know that a yid's allowed to take from a goy. We would just think that he's not allowed to take, but if he took, it's potter. So that's why he uses the lashon of iser and heter. Therefore, Tana Reisha Osir, that's what uses the word Osir, describing a goy who's not allowed to steal, but in fact, a goy was chayiv if he steals. Frank the Gemara, how can you say that? In the earlier case in this brisa, misna katani. Whenever a goy is chayiv for something, the brisa says chayiv because we want it to be known that the goy is chayiv misa for it. The katani Reisha al shvichas damim goy begoy be Yisrael chayiv. Yisrael begoy is potter. Over there, why doesn't it say mutter as well? Elamai, when the goy is chayiv, the brisa wants to say chayiv. So here too, it should say chayiv, and this it didn't. Don't you have a raya that a goy is not chayiv misa for stealing? So Akmar, no. Because Hasam, by shvichas damim, the brisa, the Tana have no other way to express it. Hey, listening, what would you want the Tana to have said? Osir and mutter, listening, osir mutter, but it's not true because you're not allowed to kill. You're not allowed to kill a goy. So you could use the word mutter about a yid stealing from a goy, but I can't use the word mutter describing a yid killing a goy because we know a yid is not allowed to kill a goy. Vatanya husi v'roye behemedaka, which are ganovim by nature. Loy malin v'loy maridin. You don't take them down into a bar to let them starve to death. You don't kill them, but if they're in trouble and they are in a bar, you don't take them out. So loy malin, you don't help them, save them lives, but v'loy maridin, you're not allowed to actively kill them. So you see very clearly that Yid is not allowed to kill a goy. So let's talk about a little bit about a Yid stealing from a goy. So just for facts, the Shulchan Aruch in Siman in Choshen Mishpat, Siman Shin Memches says black and white. It's osir midai raisa to steal from a goy, and it's osir to fool a goy. Hatoas akum. Toas akum is where there's a discussion. If a goy made a mistake, do you have to tell them? But if you look at Rashi, Rashi says something slightly different. Let me see if I am able to find a Rashi that I'm looking for. Might not be the right place. There is a Hagoyis Hagra Aleph. It's right over here. So this Aleph, where is the Rashi with this Aleph? That's what I'm looking for. I think we just learned it, but for some reason it's evading me right now.
Rashi didn't have the Shulchan Aruch.
No, I understand, but the Shulchan Aruch should typically be based on the Shita of the Rishonim. So do you see the Aleph? It's right in Rashi somewhere here. I don't know why I cannot find it. It's right in here somewhere. 1 second. Oh, here it is. Zokt Rashi, Yisrael b'kuti muter, the loy sashek esrei echoksiv, the loy goy. Zokt Rashi, umi dirabanon, There is somebody who holds that there's an Isser D'Rabbanan to steal from a goy. Zokti Hagoy Sagra, Tamua, Ma'oid, Ba'ain Mashakasav, B'choshemish B'simen Shin Memches. So there's a big tumult about it, whether or not there's an Isser D'Araisa for a Yid to steal from a goy, which the Gra says clearly from the other sugas you see it's also D'Araisa, but Rashi here seems to say that it's an Isser D'Rabbanan, and it's a very shvera shitas Rashi that the Olim talks about. I didn't have a chance to look up all the raid, but I'm sure there's a lot of talk in the early Achronim about it.
In the words of the Maggid Shir, is it only usher to get caught?
Right now we're being recorded. Zok the Helig Gemor weiter. Somebody in Lakewood, when I was in Lakewood, I don't know if you remember who it was actually Langer. He went to the bank, and the bank, by mistake, the teller counted wrong and gave him an extra $2,000. I'm not sure how they were counting out bills, but they got an extra $2,000. It's an oven grub tosakel. And he went to Reb Forsheimer, and he asked Reb Forsheimer, does he have to bring back the money? Because the teller wouldn't even know. At the end of the day, the teller wouldn't even chap where she went wrong, right? She wouldn't even know who took it, right? She just knows that there's not enough money in her tillata. So Rav Forshamer said 100% l'aloch you're allowed to keep it. But it's brought down from Rabbi Yehuda Chosid that those people who kept the money never saw a siman bracha from it, and those people who gave it back had a great siman bracha. So how should give it back? Okay, Zog the Gemara weiter. So where are we up to? So the Gemara Kayoytze Behen, the Gemara wants to know the Kayoytze Begezel Mai, because if you look, it says Ala Gezel. There's Ganim, Gazel, the Chenyaf Astoyer. There's 3 items in the list, and the Chen Kayoytze Ben. So Kayoytze Ben is plural. At first glance, it must mean what's the Kayoytze Behen of Ganim, what's the Kayoytze Ben of Gazlin, and what's the Kayoytze Ben of Yefas Toyer. We're going to soon see the Gemara is not even going to engage in what the Kayoytze Ben of Ganav is. And Rashi will comment that because there is no Kayoytze Ben to look at, but by Gazel, by Gezel, and by Yefas Toyer there is, and that's what the Gemara is going to look at. So Kayoytze Ben Begezel Mai. So it's something that's like Gzela, but it's not quite Gzela, right? Someone working by a balabas in a kerem, and he's eating from the fruit that like Gzela. It's not mamish Gzela. Why? Because Rashi says Gzela means when I go and take something away from you, by Yigzal Hachanis Miyara Mitzri, I take something away from you. When you're working and you're eating and you're not supposed to, doesn't have that structure. You didn't go take away someone else's thing. So that's why it's like Gzela. Zok to Gemara, but that cannot be because Poyel B'Kerem Emas. When exactly is this person eating? If it's while he's loading up the kalim of the balabayis, heterihu. That's not gzela. A poil is 100% allowed to eat during that time. And he lab b'shas gemar malacha. And if it's not b'shas gemar malacha, then it's usher. Then it's gezem ayu. Takayoytze ben. It's actual gzela. Elo amar papa la nitzricha elo lepachas mishava pruta. Kayoytze ben means if a goy steals less than the shava pruta, that's not mamish gzela. It's like gzela. Frank the more ihachi goy be Yisrael usher. Why would it be also for a guy to steal from a Yisrael less than a Shavah Pruta? Don't we say a bar mechiliu? The loch is if a Yid steals less than the Shavah Pruta from another Yid, he's not over the sigsa, because the Yid automatically moicha less than the Shavah Pruta. Zok Gemara, he the boss or hachi machalei. You're right. After someone takes away from a Yid a pachas Shavah Pruta, the Yid will right away be moichelit. But tzayra b'shaitim he leslie. It still bothers me that someone took something away from me. So then you might ask, Oy Bazoi, why isn't there such an Isser Gzela for a Yid? A Yid also, when a Yid, I don't care if it's the guy taking from me or if the Yid's taking from me. At that moment, I have Tsar. So Rashi has an interesting shtickle lumdus. Rashi says that the reason why there's no Isser Gzela when you take from a Yid, less than Shavah Pruta, is because there's no Veheshav Esek Gzela. The Torah normally says there's a mitzvah of Veheshav Esek Gzela, but you can't do Veheshav Esek Gzela by less than Shavah Pruta because the Yid's Moichel. So therefore, it's not a considered Gzela unless you can be Mekayim Veheshav. But a goy who doesn't have the mitzvah of Veheshav, why doesn't a goy have the mitzvah of Veheshav? Because a goy who steals is Chayiv Misa, like every one of the mitzvahs, Sheva mitzvahs B'nei Noach, so he never has a Chayiv Veheshav. So since he never has a Chayiv Veheshav, whether or not it's considered gzela will not hinge on whether or not there's a chiyuv heshiv. So therefore, there's an isser for a goy to steal even from a yid who's going to be moichel less than the shapavuta. Goy begoy kayoytze behen. Even the lab name mechila lenu. Again, it should be gezel ma'alya, and it shouldn't be kayoytze behen. The Zok Gemara, Ella Amar of Acha Bereid Ravika, Lenitztricha Ella Lekoivesh Schar Schir. An employer who does not pay his employee, that's the kayoytze ben, because he's not taking anything away, he's not giving him what is due. Goy begoy, begoy be Yisrael is also, but Yisrael begoy mutter. For a yid not paying a goyish worker, that would be mutter. Okay. Now, what's the kayoytze by your fast tire? Now, your fast tire are not working with Torah's nus, we're working with Torah's gzela, right? These are all subsets of gzela. What is the kayoytze of your fast tire? Mahi. Zaktimar ki asur avdimi amar abalozer amar b'chanina. It's ben noach sheyichet shivcha la'atem. A ben noach set aside, there's no kedushin, but he designated this shivcha will be the mate for this eved. And then uba alel, and then he was mezana with that same woman, so he's taking a woman away. There's no znus there, because by them there's no znus unless they already have relations. But he's sort of stealing this woman from this eved. So neragala, a guy would get killed for that. Kayoytze boy the shvichas domim loy tanya. There is no kayoytze boy of. It doesn't say in the brisa when it lists of shvichas domim, it doesn't say a kayoytze boy. Why? Because there's no kayoytze boy. It's either chayiv misa because a guy killed somebody, or it's mutter. There's nothing in the middle. Are you talking about by the shivcha? Right, it's al gzela. That's right. And Rashi lists off what the equivalent by yid is and how that works, but it's maybe we'll go back to it, but I just want to finish. Zok Gemara, Amar Abaye, imish kachas, maybe you could find a kayoytze boy of shvichas damim. It's not mamish shvichas damim, but it's like shvichas damim. And what would that be? The Tanya Rabbi Yonis and Shol. It would go according to Rabbi Yonis and Shol. The Tanya Rabbi Yonis and Shol Omer, roidev acher chaveiroi lahar. What if there's a roidev? So you're allowed to kill the roidev only if you can't stop him in any other way. But what if it was v'yochel atziloi be'echad me'ivarav? What happens if you could have shot him in the knee? You didn't have to shoot him in the chest. V'loi hitzel, and you didn't do that. That is the kayoytze be'gneva. Nerag, a goy would get killed for that because he shouldn't have killed him. But it's not mamash ritzicha, as Rashi says. Hainu kayoytze bo shvichas damim that a karav lahater ve'ini muter. There would be a svara to say that it's muter because Lamaisa is a roidev, but Lamaisa he shouldn't have done that. Okay, so therefore, Kuti Yisrael would be chayiv, the Chen Yisrael would be chayiv, but Yisrael Bekuti would be part. According to Rabbi Yonason, if a yid was being pursued by a goy and the yid could have shot him in the knee and instead shot him in the chest and killed him, that would be no problem for a yid. Zok Gemara weiter. Ashkech Rabbi Yaakov bar Acha davaksiv b'sefer Agadata deveirav. Rabbi Yaakov found written in the Sefer Agadata deveirav. He was in shul one day, and there was a kuntras put out on the table, and he was rummaging through it to see, let's see what's interesting there. And this is what he found there. Ben Noach neag b'dayin echad, uven eid echad, shaloi basra, mi pi'ish v'lo mi pi'isha, va'afilu kar. So look at these rules. You don't have to have a normal bezin of 23 with edim and asra, which is required to kill a yid. Rather, one dayin, one eid, even if there's no asra. But it has to be a male eid, it can't be a female eid. And the aid could even be related. That's still a kosher aid to condemn a goy lamisa. Okay, Mishum Rabbi Shmuel Amru. In the name of Rabbi Shmuel, they said, "Af al ha'obrin." What if a goy makes an abortion? A goy is chayiv misa for that. That's called a murder. But by a yid, if a yid does an abortion, there's no chayiv misa for it. As we see in Rashi, I call that an abortion. A guy would be killed for that. A tinnik ben yoy mechad, a yid is chayiv for killing that. But a tinnik who was not born yet, a yid is not chayiv for killing it. How do we know this list of halachas that we just said? So let's look at the entire pasuk. The pasuk says, "Ach sdimchem lenafshoy seichem edroish." I'm going to mourn if you kill somebody, miyad kol chaya edrishenu, umiyad ha'adam, miyad ish, ochiv edresh nefesh ha'adam. This is the instruction that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to Noach. So let's dash in this passage. Ak es dimchem l'nafsho, seichem edresh, afilu b'dayin echad. So we learn from edrosh that it's even one dayin. Miyad kol chaya. From there we learn afilu shaloi b'hasra. Edrishenu. And then right after that, edrishenu umiyad ha'adam. What do we learn from edrishenu umiyad ha'adam? That means afilu be'erechad, because even miyad ha'adam, I will edrishenu. So that's erechad, and then it says umiyad. It says miyad ish. Miyad ish. That's how we know v'loy miyad isha. A woman wouldn't be nemenes as an aid to condemn a goy lemisa. Then it says ochiv to tell you that afilu karaiv, even a karaiv is going to be an acceptable aid to condemn a goy to death. Now Mishum Rabbi Shmuel Amru af ala obrin. Where does he know that? Where does he know that a goy is chayiv even if he does an abortion on a baby that wasn't born yet? I know the liberals consider it an abortion even after the baby's born, but we're talking about before the baby's born. My time with Rabbi Shmuel. Tichsiv, it says in the pasuk, "Shoifech dam ha'adam ba'adam." If someone kills a person that's inside another person, how do you kill a person that's inside another person? Shoifech dam ha'adam ba'adam dama yishafech. Ezel adam shu ba'adam. How do you have one person that's inside another person? Hava omer is a uber shebemei imoy. You learn from this pasuk, "Shoifech dam ha'adam ba'adam dama yishafech," that even if you kill an embryo that's inside a mother. Now, what if you don't hold like that? What if you hold that a guy will not be killed for killing a baby? How do you dash in this pasuk of shoifech dam adam ba'adam dama yishafech? So tomorrow Tanakama Tanid ve Menashe, who is Tanid ve Menashe. The Amar, he said, Kol misa ha'amura levnei Noach. Anytime a guy gets killed, it's not hereg like we always said. Tanid ve Menashe, we learned on Amar Aleph, holds einoi ela chenek. The Misa's chenek, and that's what he dashes from this pasuk, and we'll see in a moment how he does that. V'shadi lehai ba'adam asay for the krah, and he puts Adam at the end of the pasuk. V'darish bei hachi, and this is how he dashes it. Ba'adam damo yishafech, ezeu shviches damim shal adam shu begufo shal adam have omer zachet. So let's see what this means, and then we'll come back and read the words of the Gemara again. The way Rabbi Shmuel learned it was shoifech dama adam ba'adam. If you kill somebody who's in another person, dama yishavech, referring to an embryo. But that's not how the Tanakama learns. The Tanakama learns is shoifech dama adam. Period. Ba'adam dama yishavech. So ba'adam isn't connected to the previous clause; it's connected to the next clause. Ba'adam dama yishavech. A person should be killed internally. What type of misa is only an internal damage? Chenek, because the body doesn't have any trauma. It's internal, and that's why it's referring to chenek. So let's see now the Gemara inside. And the word ba'adam isn't connected to the earlier clause in the pasuk. Rather, I say with the crotch connected to the next thing the pasuk says. Udreish behachi ba'adam dama yishafech. How do you kill him ba'adam? What type of killing of a person is only internal? Let's see what Rashi says, because I'm thinking, what about Shreifa? Didn't we say Shreifa is also internal? So let's just see. So I'm wondering, what about Shreifa? Right? Didn't we say Shreifa is only internal? So it could be so it could be the good doesn't hold like that. Okay, so more weiter. Meiser Rav Hamnuna. Frekar of Nakasha. The Isha loy mifkeda. Are you telling me that a woman doesn't have all the chiyuvim of dinim? Right? We're saying a woman can't be an aid. A woman's not in the parsha of dinim when it comes to the bnei Noach. Zok to Gemara. V'aksiv it says ki yadaitiv. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said about Avram. Ki yadaitiv l'man asher yitzaveh. And let's look at the whole pasuk inside. So it's Beisai as well. Beisai is Uishtoi. So you see, women are included in the parsha of Choshe Mishpat. There's two discussions in that pasuk. It says Vishamu derech Hashem lasos tzedakah and lasis mishpat. So banov is ladin. The mishpat is what the banim are referenced for, but the women beisai are referenced to tzedakah. I guess the women are also mechuyev to do tzedakah, but it's not referring to the mishpat. I'm not sure exactly what tzedakah means. That means the Goyish women have to give tzedakah as well. They have to help other people. They have to do kind things. I didn't even know that's one of the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. But does the archbishop say what tzedakah means that women are mechuyev to do by Goyim? Oh, so although they don't paskin and din, but they could be arbitrators, the negotiators. Okay, so to more weiter. Amr le Rab Avia Saba le Rav Papa. Rab Avia Saba told Rav Papa, Ema bas Noach shaharga loy tehareg. Let's make an argument based on the drasha that you made that if a goyish woman commits murder, she shouldn't be subject to the death penalty because it says miyadish v'loy miyadisha, right? It says Hashem will be edroish dam miyadish, but it doesn't say miyadisha. Zakt Gemara miyadish v'loy miyadisha ksev. Amr le hachi Amr Rab Yehuda shoyvech dama adam is mikol makay. Dama adam means anybody, so that's more inclusive. So even though it says shoyvech dama adam dama yishafech, I'm sorry, even though it says miyad ish, but the other pasuk says shoyvech dama adam, the other pasuk is a much more general utterance, and therefore it includes women as well. Maybe a woman who's mezana should not get misa. Is basically it says of isha is basically v'dovak be'ishtoi, but v'lo isha the Torah is not talking about an isha. Amrulei hachi Amar Rab Yehuda at the end of the pasuk is v'hayu levaser echad. So hadar arvinu lekra. The Torah shows that they're both one. Tanur Rabbanan ish ma tamad loimer ish. Why to say both? L'rabbis es akutim shemisorim al harayos ki Yisrael. So this is ish al kol she'er b'sarai. That's the pasuk that the Gemara is now working on. Let's have a look at the pasuk inside. It says Ishish el kol she'er b'sorei lo sikravu legalis ervani Hashem. That includes goyim in the prohibition of znus. Shemusorin al harayis kisrael. Frank Gemara v'hamei hachanafka. Are you telling me that this is the makar of the prohibition for znus for a goy? We said lemar, didn't we say from that original pasuk that we darshan from the word lemar? We learned zagilu arayis, and the Gemara brought a pasuk to show how lemar is referring to Gila Arayis. Zok Gemara, it depends on which Arayis. Hasam ba'arayis did who? Bahacha ba'arayis did done. There's different Arayis. Their Arayis, they learn out of lemar. Our Arayis, they learn from ish. What does that mean? Zok Rashi, Arayis did done are ish Yisrael. So if they're mizana with a goy, that's what they learn out of ish. But if they're mizana, I'm sorry, that's what they learn out of lemar. But if they're mizana with a yid, that we know that from the pasuk of ish. Okay, the Katani Sefer Ba'al Arayis Yisrael. If they were mizana with a Jewish woman, nidain b'dina Yisrael, then they don't get the misa that they would get for their regular arayis, which would be hereg or chenek, depending on what you hold. Rather, they would get whatever misa the yid gets for this same znus. So I have to correct myself. It's not saying at this point that you get the same misa that the yid would get. It means when we paskin on such a shaila where it's an Eish Yisrael that the guy was mizana with, there you follow the halachas of Bezdin, which is Eida, Edim, and Asra. You need 23, not one like a goy. You need Edim. By a goy, you only need one Eid, and you need Asra by Eid, you don't need Asra by goy. So, frankly, are you telling me that it's easier to kill a goy who's mizana with a goy than it is to kill a goy who's mizana with a Eid? Because you're applying all the rules of Bezdin only if the goy was mizana with a Eid. That doesn't make any sense. If anything, it should be worse if a goy is mizana with a Eid than if he's mizana with a goy. So, frankly, Migra Gora, you're telling me that if he's mizana with a yid, he gets all these protections of Eida, Edom, and Asra? That's not logical. Forget it. If a goy is mizana with a naira hamarasa, because in their world there is no such thing as any connection other than the connection that was a bia. They don't recognize the connection of Erishin at all. So therefore, if they are mezana with anayim rasa, which they would otherwise be 100% mutter to do, but if they're mezana with anayim rasa, who's a bas Yisrael, there we paskin on them like we would paskin on a yid with eda men Yisrael. Did they need the lu? But did it done? Aval eishes ish, but an eishes ish, even if they're mezana with a Jewish eishes ish, bedina did hu dadina lu, and they're not afforded any protections at all. We paskin on them with one aid, without hasra. So that's how it works. Okay. I'm sorry? You're right. Aval eishes ish bedina did hu dadina rashes bitmia, but Tanya we learned, ba'al nair hamurasa, nidoin biskila, al eishes ish, nidoin bechemek. Why would you get chemek? Chemek is the miso that's given to a yid who's mezana. And if you're going to tell me that when they're mezana with a woman who it's usher in their world as well, because she's an eishes ish, sayifu, it should be sayif. So that Baal Maimarasa, the guy gets killed, that makes sense. It's not bedin to do. But if they're mezana with a Jewish woman who's a nesua, so that is what their Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach covers, and therefore they should get the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach Misa, which is Sayif and not Chemek. Amar Rab Nachman bar Yitzchak, my Eishes Ish the Katani, you know what type of Eishes Ish gets Chemek, which is the Misa of a Yid and not of a Goy? It's Kagoy Chenichnis al Chuppah V'lo Nivala. That's if there was Nisun, meaning she went into the Chuppah, but she never had a Bia. Again, a Goy, to us it's a Nesua, and to us it's not called Anayar Hamuras anymore. And it's not Skila, the Misa would be Chenek, but to a Goy, that's not a recognized marriage. The two, less Lahu. They don't recognize any marriage that didn't have a B already. So therefore, Dainina Lahu, Bedina Didan, and therefore there would be Chenek. So the two exceptions to a Goy getting Herek for his Nus is a Nus that is only by a Jewish person, not by a Goy, and that is the Nair Hamuras, who's Beskila, and that is a Nesua who did not yet have Bia, which would be Chemek for a Yid, and a Goy would get that same Chemek because there is no such prohibition for a Goy. The Tani Rab Chanina, Bu'ulas Baal, Yesh Lahem, Goyim have the concept of Bu'ulas Baal. As Rashi says, the Chsiva Hi Bu'ulas Baal. That was the Tanya that they had, I think, on Avimelech, who took Sora, right? The Loik Sivi Yeshish. The Tanya on Pari or on Avimelech wasn't that Sora was an Yeshish, is that she was a Bu'ulas Baal. Alma Hincha Meis Mishum Bi'ilasa Shel Baal V'Loi Mipnei Kedushin V'Chupasei. So you see, there's no prohibition for a goy to have relations with a woman who's married as long as she was not yet Bu'ulas Baal. Nichnas al Chobel V'Loi Nivala Ein Lahem. There is no such prohibition for a goy. Tanya Kabasei to Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan is the one who said that there's two exceptions to the rule of Arayis, that a goy follows the rules of a yid, and that is a Naira Hama Urasa and a Nesua who did not have Bia. Because the Brisa says, Kol Erva, Shebezdin Shel Yisrael Mamisin Aleh, any erva that Bezdin Shel Yisrael kills for, Ben Noach Muzer Aleh. But Ein Bezdin Shel Yisrael Mamisin Aleh, Ein Ben Noach Muzer Aleh. That's Divrei Rabbi Meir. That's what Rabbi Meir holds. We don't pass like that. But what are you talking about? And what this means is, Chayve Krisos, a goy is not Muzer. The only type of arayis that a goy is not allowed to do, so this is what I meant before, there's a discussion of which arayis are usher for a goy. So Reb Meir holds only arayis where there's a Mises Bezdin is usher for a goy. But arayis that are Chiv Karis, which many of our arayis are, there a goy is allowed to do that. That's Reb Meir Shita. But that's not true. Harba arayis yesh she'ein Bezdin shel Yisrael Mamisn alein, and nevertheless Zuvanoach Muzer alein. So Avada, even for Chayve Krisus, these arayis are not allowed for a goy. Bo al arayis Yisrael, if their arayis only apply to a yid, nidin bedinei Yisrael. Bo al arayis benoyach, nidin bedinei benoyach, which is what Rabbi Yochanan was saying earlier, that they only recognize a Bu'ulas Baal, but not on a Rusa or a Nesua who did not yet have Bia. Anu ein lanu elanaira hamurasa bilvad. So you see clearly the Naira Hamarasa is what the distinction is, where a goy would be paskined upon with Dina Yisrael, because Naira Hamarasa is not recognized by goyim. Why wasn't that listed? According to Rabbi Yochanan, there's two types of women who this nus is not recognized by goyim, only by Yidden. Zok Gemara in a Chanami, but a high Tana is Tana de Menashu, the Amar Kol Misa, Mur Livnei Noach, Einoi Alachemek, and therefore Idi the Idi Cheneku. It lists off Nair Rasa because there the guy will get skila, but it doesn't list off Nichnas Alachuba V'Lei Nivala that the guy is treated like a Yid, because what would a Yid get for that? Chenek. Guess what? But Tana de Menashu holds that every Misa that a guy gets is Chenek. So therefore, there's no distinction between the Goyish Misa and the Yiddish Misa. It's only relevant by an Amarasa. But us, Hulamaisa, hold that the standard Misa for a Goy is Hereg. In fact, if they were Mizana, if a Goy was Mizana with a lady who was Nichnas or the Chobah Nivala, the Goy would get Chenek. The Sava Rab Meir, Kol Erba, Kebezin Shal Yisrael, Misnala, Benoyach Muzerla. Is that true? But Tanya we learned, Ger. This gets into a whole new sugya, so we will stop here and we will be mamshech tomorrow.
So Yossi, just quickly.